again immediately.
8-handed. And O'Dwyer opens under the gun +1 with Jack-10 suited, which seems very, very standard. And then it folds around to LLinusLove, who defends 9-6 offsuit, which is slightly loose, but is probably pretty close to neutral, especially if you think that you have an advantage post-flop. Here, looking at how a big blind should defend against a 14% min raiser, we see that GTO considers a lot of these close offsuit hands to be pretty neutral. I'm sure that 5-4 offsuit, some defenses of 6-5 offsuit are going to be neutral. If you think that you have a skill advantage over an opponent, then obviously these become profitable calls. And if Linus thinks that he has a significant skill advantage over O'Dwyer, then 9-6 becomes a neutral or slightly profitable call here. The board comes 9 high. Linus checks, and O'Dwyer goes ahead and pots it, even though it says 3,000 on the flop. And even facing a pot-sized bet from the early position player, LLinusLove goes ahead and re-raises it like a boss, making it 28,000, so a little bit more than a min-raise, and O'Dwyer with overs and 2 backdoors goes ahead and makes the call. So first, what do we think of O'Dwyer's pot-sized bet on the flop, knowing that Linus is defending hands as weak as 9-6 offsuit? As you can see, when O'Dwyer has this tight, uncapped range against Linus's very wide capped range, he should just go ahead and pot the flop because he has a huge advantage. After he pots it, his opponent still has to fold about 60% of the time because he's just not going to be able to have enough hands in order to float profitably. What do we think of Linus's raise? Shockingly, it's actually really good. When you compare the equity of a raise and a call with 9-6, you can see that the 9 of clubs, 6 of spades, the combo that Linus has the same EV whether or not you raise or call. Linus recognizes that you should be raising your top pair type hands with kickers that cannot hit overcards on the turn, and he goes ahead and raises 9-6 to a small size. O'Dwyer, facing such a small sizing, definitely can consider floating with a hand that can improve on so many turns like Jack-10 of hearts. I will say, if O'Dwyer doesn't have 2s through 5s in his pre-flop range, that means that he's going to have to float the flop a little bit more lightly facing the check raise, and that makes Jack-10 of hearts a pretty easy call.
On a different level, and O'Dwyer calls here with Jack-10 because it's
the turn is the Queen of Hearts, giving O'Dwyer the open-ended straight draw and the flush draw.
It really doesn't look like he's
Linus checks, and O'Dwyer checks back.
Check is slow.
Here, when the turn comes the Queen of Hearts, this is a card that's definitely going to improve the pre-flop raiser instead of the pre-flop caller's range. So because it doesn't really improve many cards in Linus's range, he should start by developing a wide checking range, as you can see. What actually goes into this checking range? Sometimes pocket 2s, sometimes pocket 5s, a bunch of the 9x type hands that now want to pot control, but also flopped top set, and also some checks with queens if you can have it in your pre-flop range here. It's possible that Linus actually has no copies of queens here, but it should not affect this strategy much. Additionally, some of the hands that Linus wants to check raise are going to be combo draws that O'Dwyer doesn't want to put it in against with Jack-10 of hearts. If Linus checks and O'Dwyer bets, we can see that when Linus continues, at least half the time he's going to be raising instead of calling. So when Linus checks, there's a lot of incentive for O'Dwyer to want to check back his combo draws that don't want to put it in against dominating draws, such as Jack-10 of hearts or 7-6 of hearts. But he doesn't mind betting a hand like Ace-King of hearts nearly as much because he can still put it in against ace-high draws like Ace-3 of diamonds. For the most part, O'Dwyer should just go ahead and bet all the hands that he's willing to put in facing a check raise. And the river pairs the 5, and Linus goes ahead and bets a quarter of the pot, which O'Dwyer can't really call, with only Jack high, and not really good blockers to run a shove. When the 5 comes on the river, Linus is allowed to have an overbet size, because he should have more combinations of pocket 9s, pocket 5s, pocket deuces, and pocket queens that check raise the flop and then check the turn in order to set a trap. After O'Dwyer checks back the turn, it's very unlikely he has any sets, especially when the board is this draw heavy. On the river, Pio mostly wants Linus to bet small with his 9x's, his top and second set that block a lot of calling hands, as well as his Queen X type hands, which can bet small and then call the raise. As you can see, facing a raise on the river, Linus should mostly call his turned queens, as well as all of his 5x combinations. So I reran this tree to have LLinusLove only use a 1/3 bet sizing on the river in order to balance the river range with some thin value and the nuts. You can see that O'Dwyer has to fold Jack-10 of hearts. That's pretty standard. And because Linus's small bet on the river is defended with some copies of the nuts, O'Dwyer should pretty much only raise when he has really strong hands himself. I think this hand is an amazing example where a world-class player can recognize that the EV between two lines is very, very close, so not only can he play these minority lines with a lot of accuracy, but he can occasionally win pretty big pots in spots where other players would probably always play their nines much more passively. Hey, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe and check out some of the other videos I have about GTO and Piosolver.